did. I told him.
This time we'll go ahead and get this. This is a joint meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commissions. This is a special meeting, and the item of business this evening is the Spanish Moss Planned Unit Development. Once again, I would remind commissioners that we do have time limits on our speakers. After or during the time, if you have a question or a comment, please make it as direct as possible. The motion to approve, deny, defer, whatever, I would ask that we state this motion as clearly as possible, the reasons for the motion. I want everybody to note this is just a recommendation to the council. We do not have the final say. Whichever way we go or we vote, this item will go before the Ascension Parish Council. Okay. So let's go ahead and get it started. I have the public comment period. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on any item that is not up for public hearing, please come up and sign with the secretary, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. No one wishing to speak. Okay. This time we'll go ahead, Mr. Gazaffi, you and your engineers, whoever's representing the PUD.
My name's Edward Idell with Alvin Fairbairn and Associates, and I'm the engineer for L.J. Gazaffi. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a little sickness, so a little bit stressed. I'll be representing him in the matter of Spanish Moss. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to make as brief as I can. We had it loaded onto the computer.
Okay, you do know that. About how long is it, sir?
It should be about that 10 minutes.
Okay.
Spanish Moss, a planned unit development here in Ascension Parish. I got my little pointer, but it doesn't show up on that screen, so I'm going to try to explain things as best I can without it. This is the site location. As you can see, it's north of Highway 30, west of 73, east of 73, west of 10, and south of New River Canal Road. I want to make it clear that this is not the L.J. Gazaffi property that's right at the intersection of 30 and 73. It's actually significantly further to the northeast. It's a different site than what some of you might think it to be. This existing site is a 667-acre pasture with wooded fringes. The current zoning is 1 acre conservation. The majority of this site is not even located in a flood zone, and those areas that are within the flood zone are high and will require little fill. The surrounding land use is residential. Just a real brief summary of what Spanish Moss is. It's going to be 436 acres of residential, 57 acres of professional service, 7 acres of retail, 133 acres of common open space. There's a proposed 25-acre Catholic high school and approximately a 9-acre assisted living complex. This is a conceptual plan of Spanish Moss. On this side screen, it's a little bit hard to read, but there's approximately 10 entrances that are proposed for this development. There's one on the north west corner on Stevenson. There's a main boulevard entrance on the very north on New River Canal Road. There's another secondary entrance to the north on New River Canal Road. There's another entrance on Hidden Point on the east side, 2 more entrances on Shadow Lake. Moving toward the south, there's a secondary entrance on North Robert Wilson, a major boulevard entrance at the intersection of North Robert Wilson and West Robert Wilson, another secondary entrance on West Robert Wilson, and on the very south, another entrance on Industrialplex. The light blue, the cyan color, that's where most of the professional and medical offices will be. Just north of that, you'll see a little green area surrounded by some yellow. That's where our mixed retail professional office with townhome units will be located. Just to the west of that, you'll see a light shaded area. That's where our 50-foot garden home type lots will be. And to the northwest of that is a blue area. That's where most of the 60-foot lots will be located. The red represents where the 70-foot lots will be, and that blue strip that runs north to south is where most of the larger 80 and 100-foot lots will be located. On the far east side, there's a purple area. That's where the larger estate acreage lots will be located. All of that green represents some common open space and where most of the waterways and lakes will be located, as well as riding trails and walking paths. This is an artist's rendition of what the quarters at Spanish Moss will look like. This is what I was briefly explaining to you, where you'll have the professional offices and small retail, like a little antique shop on the bottom, and then upstairs will be the living quarters. This is an actual photo taken from River Ranch that kind of gives you an example of what that type of construction will actually look like. This is what you might expect to find on one of the 50-foot garden home type lots. We're going to call that the Commons at Spanish Moss. Moss side is what we're going to use to describe the 60-foot lots, and this is a type of residence you might see there. Spanish Trail, moving up in lot size to the 70-footers. That's an example of what you might expect to see on a 70-foot lot. And then moving up to the much larger lots, the 80 and the 100s, this is an example of what you might find, what you might find on one of those lots. The lakes and waterways that are going to traverse the property that we're going to use for detention, this is an example of what we're going to try to do with that to make it very aesthetically pleasing. Another example showing a pathway meandering along the edge of the lake. Now, what I'm going to do is bring up some of the concerns that I know are going to be brought up here tonight and kind of put them on the table so that we can discuss them. I know environmental is definitely going to be an issue, and an environmental impact study was performed by Sims Inc. on this proposed site, and it did also point out that there is existing residential that bounds this site on the north, south, east, and west. This is an excerpt from their report that I'll try to read real quickly. The results of the analysis indicate that there are no apparent environmental conditions that exist that would adversely affect the site. The results also indicate that the proposed residential development is consistent with the surrounding property usage. This subject property's location in relation to the Geismar area industrial plants should not present an adverse safety condition to the public and should not limit the use of this property for the medium residential. And when I say medium residential, our actual lot yield is going to be approximately 1.9 lots per acre in this residential development. Existing medium-density residential homes are presently located adjacent to this property. Traffic concerns, which I definitely know that the residents that live in this area are going to be concerned about traffic, and we have prepared a traffic impact study. It was actually prepared by Krebs, LaSalle, and Lemieux, which was submitted to CSRS and the parish for review. You'll note one thing you're going to notice here real shortly is this report details hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, of improvements that will be made to offset any impacts that this development would have on traffic. And I'm going to list those on these next few slides. I know my time is short, so I'm going to go through them real quickly. Unless y'all have a question, you want to discuss them. Phase 1 of this development would require a significant number of improvements, and here's a list of them. Phase 2 of this development, these are some improvements that would be done in conjunction with that phase. We're talking about right turn lanes at LA 30 westbound and LA 73 northbound, at LA 73 and 429 westbound turn lanes. Listed below that are is an improvement that would be made in conjunction with phase 3 of this development. LA 30 at Ashland, right turn lane for northbound traffic. This is a list of improvements that would be made with the phase 4 of this development. You can see there's a lot of widening of LA 30 at Ashland, West Robert, LA 73 and Stevenson Road. You know, we're talking about widening from the existing lanes to 4 lanes with right and left turn lanes added. Also listed here is signalized LA 73 with left turn at 429. Just a few highlights about traffic. You have to know that our proposed project is less than 1.5 miles from the existing interchange at I-10 and LA 30. We are proposing significant improvements to the existing parish and state highways. These improvements will be constructed to the latest parish and state standards. The developer has also asked me to divulge to you that he has been in contact with DOTD concerning a proposed interchange at I-10 in Cornerview, and all of you know what kind of positive effect that would have. This proposed interchange would only be a quarter mile from the northern entrance to this development. An interchange at that location would be a significant benefit to the existing traffic, this proposed development, Spanish Moss, and any future developments. Impacts to drainage. My office, Alvin Fairbairn Associates, did prepare a drainage impact study and submit to CSRS for review. In this study, we detail how we are not going to impact any upstream or downstream drainage. What our intent is, just like most developments today, we're going to use these water features as detention ponds. And we're actually going to have a decrease in the 10-year peak discharge from this property to further ensure that we won't adversely impact any surrounding properties or adjoining properties. And this is just another picture of what those lakes and waterways are going to be intended to look like. As far as impacts to sewer, all of the sewage generated by this 667-acre development will be treated on site in a newly constructed sewage treatment facility that will be, of course, paid for by the developer. There will be no impacts to any existing sewage system. Impacts to water. Ascension Water Company already has water distribution lines adjacent to this property, and they are prepared to provide this development with water. And should there be any need for any additional water wells or towers, we're going to make land available to them for that. Real briefly, what will Spanish Moss bring to the community of Ascension Parish? With regards to housing, we're looking at 65 townhomes, 240 garden homes, 360 60-foot lots, 362 70-foot lots, 172 80 to 100-foot lots, and 59 estate lots. When you take this number of residential and look at the acreage of the development, it's only 1.9 lots per acre, which was well below the maximum. And as you can see, we've got a real even distribution of the lots from the smallest to the largest, with the bulk being right there in the middle where most of your developments are today. When it comes to amenities,
So I'm going to ask you if you can just kind of wrap it up.
I will. Spanish Moss will have a significant number of amenities with scenic lakes, waterways, athletic facilities, baseball fields, soccer fields. When it comes to service retail, the people within Spanish Moss will have available to them in their development health club, dry cleaners, professional offices, medical offices, beauty salon, restaurants, banking, post office, bakery, coffee shop, child care and adult care with a proposed assisted living complex. And there'll definitely be land donations available for fire and police substations if the parish was to choose to take advantage of that. We're not talking about just doctor's offices, but a medical complex with the possibility for an outpatient clinic. There's been several doctors groups that have expressed interest in this development, one being a urologist from Covington, a cardiac group from Baton Rouge, and there's just so many good things that can come about by allowing something like this into your parish, as you can appreciate. But you know, when it comes to the medical complex, we definitely want you to be aware that we're not going to do anything without the total involvement and support of your local doctors. Economic benefits, real quick. A study was done by LSU professor Dr. James A. Richardson. You're looking at 800 permanent jobs, 1,500 temporary construction jobs, an estimated $2.3 million in permanent annual tax revenue. For every $10 million in construction activity at Spanish Moss, you can expect $11.3 million in business transactions, $4 million in personal earnings, and an additional 167 new jobs. And this is my conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. What we're asking you to allow us to do is to take a large, undeveloped tract of land that's now pasture and woods and turn it into a model for smart growth. This development will be basically self-sufficient, and I think that's what the intent is with a PUD, is to make them self-sufficient where you really minimize the impacts on the surrounding properties. This development will provide a significant number of choices for living for all the different lifestyles that currently exist in Ascension Parish, from the townhome, office, combination units that we spoke of, to the large acreage lots. There will be so many amenities and services available within Spanish Moss that you could literally live there. You could work, play, and do everything that you want to do and have a good quality of life without ever leaving Spanish Moss, which will further reduce any kind of traffic impacts on the adjacent properties. This is not going to be just another large subdivision. This is going to be an entire community that Ascension Parish could be proud of. And what we're asking you to do is to give us approval on this concept so that we can go to the next phase. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Comments or questions from commissioners at this time?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, if it's okay with you, go to public hearing and then ask the developer some questions after we've had the public hearing.
I don't see any problem with that.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to come up and speak on this item, please sign in with the secretary. And she'll call your name, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak.
Eric?
Eric Popularis.
I'd like to take a few minutes. I'm from the area, 73 Geismar, and I want to take a few minutes just to tell you what the people in the area kind of think. I have a lot of older kin people that live along 73. I'm from there, and they're kind of worried about the traffic. There's a lot of people on the area who are worried about pulling out of their driveway because the traffic is so bad now, even without this development. There's been a lot of development going along lately, a lot of subdivisions coming up, and they kind of have not said a bunch about it. But with this one here, it's going to be a large impact. It's going to affect the community greatly, to the point where they're worried about even being able to leave out of the yard because of the amount of people in the area. The roads can't handle it. 73 can't handle it. 30 can't handle it. And another aspect I wanted to bring is that this council should think about these people are moving across the street from industry. There's chemical plants all along this area, right across the street. Many of them 30 years old, and it's all mechanical. So mechanical equipment fail. They have releases, and that's all things that you should think about. And another thing to think about is that we have a lot of tax money coming in already. Let's not put the fact that we can get more tax money from this development ahead of what the people in the area think. Many along 73 and along 30, they really don't want it. They're really opposed to it. And we think that someone should actually come out and talk to those people alone. A lot of them are older. They don't get out as much as some of us do. So someone should go around and talk to them and find out exactly what they think about it. Because when you think about 500 and some acres, 600 acres, that's a big development for the area. And I really don't think they can. Please, sir. I really don't think that the infrastructure in this area can handle exactly what's going to occur in this development. It's already pretty bad. You have a hard time getting off the interstate at 73. You have a hard time getting on it. Same thing is at 30. Can you imagine what it's going to be like once you add all of these extra traffic, all these extra cars, all these extra people coming here? The infrastructure can't handle it. And I think that the improvement that was talked about earlier is not near enough to handle the impact that this is going to bring on the area. I'm not saying that it can't ever happen. We're just not ready for it to happen at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
James Ryan.
My name is James Ryan. They brought up a while ago about all the road improvements, but the main road they didn't bring up was New River Canal Road. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Two vehicles, if they're coming at each other, somebody has to get off to the side to let us pass. I drive a one-ton dual-wheel truck. There's no way I can pass another car. I'm retired from a chemical plant. This place is going to be close to chemical plants. They're on the south, two exits on New River Canal Road. That's the way they're going to come if they have to evacuate. They talk about the interchange at Cornerview. That'll be years down the road if that ever happens to the interstate. They talk about exit on Spanish Lake, I believe he said. That's got to come down Clean Road to Cornerview because it dead ends the other way. So it's just not feasible for our area, and it's just going to put an impact on us that I don't think this parish, this part of us, can handle right now. And that's all.
Thank you, sir.
Karen Poole.
My name's Karen Poole, and my concern also is the infrastructure here. I live on Shadow Lake. It comes back around. It's all one street, but it's Shadow Lake, Lakeview, Kling, and it goes to Cornerview. As the other gentleman said, these roads are very narrow, and there is about 80 homes in that area now. There's like 5 huge 90-degree curves. Two people cannot go on those curves as it is now. And I'm understanding, if I'm understanding correctly, there are going to be at least 3 entrances into that neighborhood. There are no sidewalks in that neighborhood. There's going to be 3 entrances, and there is going to be 100-plus homes adding in to that traffic area. I think that it would behoove you to go and look at those roads and see what they're looking at over there. They're not talking about widening any of that. They didn't mention any of that. The road condition itself, too, is not in good condition there. So I would be concerned about that. And I would also be concerned, I'd like to know the width of the servitudes, where our servitudes are. And they are talking about cutting a street right on the side of my house and my neighbor's. So I would be very interested to know what that width of that street is going to be and how close it's going to butt up to my house on there. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, ma'am.
Henry Bishop.
My name is Harry Bishop, and I got one concern. I live on Lakeview Drive, and about 100 yards from behind my house, they got 3 grades out there, and I'm wondering how they're going to build a subdivision over a cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is it Clint? I'm not sure. Horax?
Yeah, Carl.
Carl.
I want to just thank the board for giving us this opportunity. I think it's listening at their plan, it sounds really great, and all the things they thought about that most of us are concerned about. But I couldn't help but listen to him talk, and he talked about how he was going to make the west side of Robert Wilson Road into a 4-lane. And some of these houses they just built in there, they're about 50 feet of clearance from the street that exists there right now. Not to mention, I think he said it was going to have like 3 entrances from Robert Wilson Road, if I'm not mistaken. He said that. And so, if you're familiar with Robert Wilson Road right now, it's all old family property. You know, my family, my grandfather bought that property years ago before I was born. And, we have like 15 acres there. But a lot of it is you look at some things are not just about money. And my concern is that, as we travel through the parish and we go all around to all the different subdivisions that are popping up, and I know it's important for the parish to grow and take its opportunity, but I hope that somebody would concern themselves with like everybody said, the infrastructure, schools. I know he mentioned about building a Catholic school on the site, and so, but it's still going to impact the school system here too as well, our own school system. So I want to say that not only that, but it bothers me a lot of times when I pass areas, especially along that area where I grew up at, the different places that you had tree houses and all the things that kids are not getting an opportunity to enjoy today, because it seems like sometimes it's just moving so fast. And I'm not saying nobody's at the wheel, but it seems like sometimes the things are just going so fast, and they're tearing down and tearing up so much, and it can't be all about money all the time. And I think that some of the things that we do has to be concerned with the people, the standard of life and the quality of life that we have here. And I think that's what draws people. But at the same time, we got to consider the fact that the very thing that's drawing people is also going to be the thing that destroys our commonality of life that we have. So, and that's not to say nobody else could move. I'm just saying consider the facts of what we're dealing with, because this is the largest thing that I've seen. going to come all at one time. And here the area right now, the traffic on Highway 30 is just, I mean, you can't get out unless you take a chance on your life. I mean, we've been trying to get a light at the corner of of Highway 30 and Robert Wilson Road, and the other one would say, I think 2 people have been killed there. You know, it's just a tremendous problem. So I just want you, to consider the fact that it's not only going to affect that little area, but the entire city of Gonzales too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Gary Lacombe.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. With all things, there's a good, a bad, and an ugly. You've seen the good and the pretty. I'm going to talk a little bit about the bad and the ugly piece here. And I'm going to talk about facts. The facts that I want to talk about stem back to the impact that this project will have on the immediate area and the infrastructure as well. From an immediate area standpoint, you've got the traffic on Highway 30, which, by the way, Highway 30 is a major truck route for all of the industry along the river. Highway 30, it's the hydrocarbon route. We can't come in any other way. So you have a lot of trucks there. I haven't looked at the traffic study analysis, but if you look, I would challenge this group to look at the data on a time-based basis. And what I mean by that is from 7 p.m. till about 5 in the morning, you're going to see a very light load on that highway. And then right after that, you're going to see a whole lot of traffic during the morning time and then again at quitting time. The traffic stacks up for several miles. So I would ask you to really look at the data all-inclusive and don't average it over 24 hours because that really distorts the real picture. There's another piece to this that I want to show you, and that is from the school system. And the reason this is important is the Supreme Court has already said that you need to take into account via revised statute 33.90, 38.4. You really need to look at the whole package here. And they've already made rulings on that. So I want to show you a couple of things here. The first graph, I'm showing you the assessment of Ascension Parish in increments of $25,000 of value. Now what that means is the 1-25 is their properties that are valued between $1 and $25,000. The next step, $25, $50, and so forth down the line. What that means, gentlemen, is if you look, the first 3 vertical bars, those sites pay no property taxes at all. That's not a bad thing. It just says where we are. But what it means is over half, if you look at the total, that's over half of the residences in this parish pay no property taxes. Well, that's a good thing. When you look at the dollars, the same scale on the bottom, what I want you to see now is where does the money come from? And if you look all the way on the right, it's above. I stopped at 500,000 because I didn't keep going up in increments. At 500,000, that is your business and industry. So because it's so disproportionate, what I did was I said, well, let me take the 500,000 out and go to the next graph, which is the same scale in $25,000 increments that just shows you where the tax dollars are coming from. And you look at the scale on the side, there's some money, but it's not significant. The reason for all that I want to bring to you is that here's the last piece of it. If you look at it by ward, the red bars are the dollars, and the blue graph or blue line is the population. So you can see that the dollars, which wards come from where? You've got a fair amount of potential in wards 7, 8, and 9, but the rest of it, there's very low density and high dollars, and if you guessed it, it's industry and business. I'm going to move forward here because I want to show you a couple of things real quick. I know, Mike, I'm trying to hurry. I got 3 minutes. If you look at it by quarter, the tax info for sales and use tax, I want to be clear. It's fairly flat. This goes to 205. I can't see the screen on the right-hand side here. There's a slight uptick. But to show you the stabilization of the economy, we've had some storms come through here, boost the economy a little bit. This is another one with sales tax total, and I want you to see that again. 04 there's an uptick, and if you've read in the papers, we're getting close to matching what was the 2001 peak that was set. So I just want to show you from where we've come to where we're about to get back to. Now, in the process of doing all that, we've added a lot of people to this parish. So where does it go? Well, if you look at the spend per student starting in the 02-03 session in our school system in Ascension Parish, is very simple. You can go to the Department of Education website. You look at the budget divided by the enrollment. What you get is we started out at $6,900. We're up to around $7,500 per student. Why is that important? Well, when you look at the dollars that come in from a home, any residence, I'm going to walk you through this real quick. The first year, you have sales tax when you buy the bricks and sticks. That's what you get. So that's the revenue in light blue. The next year, you're going to enroll on an average 1 student per household. Some will have 2, some will have none, but on the average, it's 1 per household. What it means is, remember that $7,500 that I showed you in the previous slide? What you get into is the state gives you about $3,400, so you've got to come up with about $3,500 to pay for the education for that student. Here what I'm showing you is at the house, when you count sales tax, when you count property tax, you're short about $2,500 per student per year. I want to make sure you have that information. You're short $2,500 per student per year. The reason that's important is in the last paper here, the school board was quoted as having to balance their budget from the fund balance that they had in the bank, because we have too many students now, and we're trying to keep the budget clean. Was that the last? I think that would, no, that's my last slide. So what I want to suffice to say is you've got 3 things that we got to worry about. We've got to worry about the traffic, and there's one thing I want to leave you with. Current zoning, 1 house per acre. An alternative, because saying no is maybe not the right answer. An alternative is if you got 500 houses per acre, can we find a PUD that will limit 500 doorsteps and put it furthest away from the industry, and like that we're respecting the current zoning that's there, we're not trying to change it, and we're doing something to be smart for the industry that's paying most of the taxes in this parish. If you have any questions, I'm certainly willing to listen to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Ms. June? That's all. Okay.
How many minutes do I have?
Normally you got 5. I allowed you 15 the first go around.
That means 0?
Mr. Lacombe, I gave him a little extra time, so I don't see any problem giving you a little extra time on your rebuttal.
I promise I'll be very brief. I just want to touch on those points. I know you can all appreciate that we're not going to snap our fingers and end up with 667 acres developed. This is going to take 10 to 13 years to develop. There's many phases. So we do have a lot of time to make all of the traffic improvements that we're talking about making. 10 to 13 years to build out. Yes, you do have existing traffic problems. As far as the proximity to the industry, there are areas that are as close and closer than what we are to existing industry. And I know you guys know that. As far as the interchange, yes, it will take many years to get an interchange at Cornerview where you need one now. However, again, this is a 13-year build-out on this development. And to answer that one gentleman's question, we're not 4-laning all of Robert Wilson Road. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's just at the intersections. I'm looking for my traffic engineer. Yeah, just at the intersections. So we're definitely not going to 4-lane the whole road and take all those front yards. We do have 133 acres of common open space for recreation so that people can enjoy walking on some grass. And guys, I believe we have met all of the requirements for the approval of this conceptual drawing, and that's where we are today, just to approve the concept so that we can progress further and provide you final development plans on each phase, which will give you much more detail on what we're going to do in each phase of this development. And as far as LA 30 being a traffic nightmare, we know there's traffic issues on LA 30. That's why we're making so many improvements, and that's why we're taking advantage of all these other entrances that we have to this development. We've got 9 other entrances. Well, no, not exactly 9, but 5, 6, 7 other entrances that don't have to exit on the Highway 30. And we are making improvements on New River Canal Road. And like I say, and it's not all about money. And I know it's not all about money. It's about smart growth and growing in the right direction. Y'all put this PUD in your ordinance because I believe that the majority of you think that it's a good idea for these types of developments to come into the community to where they can be mostly self-sufficient and really minimize the impacts to the existing infrastructure. I think I've covered everything that you could, that I would expect you to question. If I haven't, please ask me some questions, and we'll get you any information that we have. You know, and as far as the cost to educate a student, I definitely know that that's going up because I have kids. Inflation causes the cost of everything to go up on a pretty much an annual basis. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners have...
Michael Holden of L. Jacobs Act.
I'll allow it, Mike, but I'm going to hold you to 3 minutes on this one.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to address a couple of things, and I'll limit it just to basically just to the taxes. The gentleman who spoke about saying that the plants paid the majority of the taxes for the school board and those kinds of things, that's not exactly accurate. According to the Ascension Parish Sales and Use Tax Authority, the plants themselves actually pay about 25% of the taxes.
Can you talk into the microphone, please? We need to hear you up here.
Okay, no problem. But at any rate, they pay somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25% of the taxes. Retail pays $17.6 million, somewhere in that range, and that's actually rising. Over the last 3 years, it's been 11, and then like 13, and this year ending, as a matter of fact, today, as a matter of fact, ending this week. It's actually $17.6 million, and these guys, when I say these guys, I'm talking about plants in general, cumulatively, they're paying in the range of $6.9 million, and they've been staying at $6.9 million for the last 3 years. According to Ascension Parish rolls, I don't know where those numbers came from, but these came actually from the parish. So, and we've got a lot of other information, but with only 3 minutes, there's no way I'm going to be able to actually address all of it. But we'll be happy to if we could be afforded the opportunity to elaborate on many of these issues.
Comments or questions from commissioners at this time?
Yeah, I got a couple. What about the improvements to the New River Canal Road situation? One gentleman, and I'm sorry I didn't catch his name, but he brought that up. Can you speak to that? The improvements there on that seems to be a substandard road.
I'd like to invite the traffic engineer to come up and speak on that because he actually prepared the report, if that's acceptable to the commission.
I mean, I understand this is a conceptual, but for me, I've got 3 questions, and that's one of them that will help me conceptually.
He wants to know about the improvements for the New River Canal Road at the intersection with the development.
Specifically, one of the concerns was the plants being south of your development, and if there was a emergency response or some kind of situation we had to get people out, how are we going to get them out on the north side of your development through the New River Canal Road? How will that be able to handle it?
Well, the widenings of the improvements will be basically at the intersections, which are the points where where you measure capacity, because of free-flowing traffic between intersections is one thing, but the intersection has to be widened. And what our study has indicated that we take 15-minute manual counts throughout the day and zero in on the peak hours, the heaviest traffic, and determine what the delay is, driver delay. And that occurs at the intersections, and so the basis of the report is to single out these various strategic intersections and to widen them to increase their capacity that allows for a level of service that's acceptable, a C and a D, 15, 20, 30 seconds, as opposed to an F, which might be 50 seconds. So the widening, to answer your question, would be at the intersections. That's what we're recommending.
So you feel confident that your proposed improvements at the final stage of development with everybody living in their home as it stands in this conceptual development, if we had an explosion at Borden or Shell or whoever may be south of us, that we could get people out on the New River Canal based on your proposed?
We don't design roads for
worst case scenario
for the explosions and that sort of things, floods and evacuations. As you know, we reverse directions and we double up and that sort of thing. In an emergency, the entire road would be used as an evacuation, in my guess, so we would double up. If it's a 2-lane road, you'd have 2 lanes out, and but that had to be controlled, manual control by police. But I don't know of any roadways in this country that we actually, unless it's a specific nuclear power plant or something of that nature, which the design engineers believed that it was necessary, that we really haven't. I have no experience in my 57 years of this business of designing a emergency with a number of lanes, because obviously if you want to empty a plant in an explosion, you might need 10 or 12 lanes, and you just don't prepare for that. You just move your traffic on what you have, and of course on emergency conditions is much different from normal conditions. This is designed for normal conditions, to be honest with you. I can't tell you it's designed for an explosion.
Okay. My second question to the developer is why only a high school? Why is only a high school proposed? Why would we not propose a school that would be K through 12? And we're talking about impacts to the complete school system of Ascension Parish. Why are we only looking at high school impacts?
And please understand, like the gentleman said, and I'm going to take his information, he said 1 student per house, so we're talking about 1,300 students. Some of them being high school, obviously, some of them being middle school and elementary. So I think when you look at it in that respect, it's really not that significant of an impact, especially when you consider that I think you like your garden home lots. That's usually for your empty nesters and people that really don't want to cut grass anymore. And as far as there being a complete school, there very well could be. Understand we're in the very beginning stages, and we're asking you for approval of a concept.
Correct.
And the diocese that's actually interested, that's what they put in their letter to us. And I'm sure they would definitely be, if there was a need, that they would probably provide an entire K through 12 school at that facility, because the 25 acres would definitely be large enough for that.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
I have a couple of them, sir.
Okay.
When you list your housing, does that include the housings that you have, the condos that you have above the commercial?
Yes, sir, it does.
Those are the townhomes or the garden homes?
Well, the townhomes would be the combination where you have the living units above and then an office or small retail below. Some of those are those townhome units. And then the garden homes would be the regular single-family residential 50-foot lots.
Okay. Let's go through some of the other items that you have that I have no clue how to quantify. Your assisted living facility, how many beds is that going to be?
The information that was provided to me said that there was a proposed approximately 9 acres facility, and to try to quantify that as far as beds are concerned, I'm really not prepared to answer that. I could try to compare it to some other facilities that I know. One facility is actually about 15 acres, and I think they have 175 units, but it's in a real rural area, so I don't know if that would be apples to apples. I really can't answer that. I'm sorry.
What about the commercial area? How many square footage of commercial do you anticipate?
Do you know how many square foot of commercial, Alan? I've got the acreage listed, and if you converted that to maybe about 50-60% square footage, possibly, that might be a good approximation of what the square footage of retail would be.
retail or the
Is
Both.
total non-residential areas. Let's see how he's got this listed. Okay, he's got 2 for retail. 120,000 square feet plus 79,200 square feet. Restaurant space, 50,000 square feet. Office space, 380,000 square feet.
You know, you say that you have 10 entrances, but really that amounts to 3 at best. You have 2 that go to Highway 30, and the rest will end up at New River.
Yes, we have 2 major entrances right on New River Canal, and then several on Shadow, or 2 on Shadow Lake, 1 on Hidden Point, and another on Stevenson. That's correct.
Yeah, but all of those ultimately end up...
That's correct, they do. They ultimately go north. Like I said, you have the one on an Industrialplex and a main boulevard and 2 secondary entrances on North Robert Wilson and West Robert Wilson. They would all go down to Highway 30.
On the aerial that we were provided, there's a parcel of land that's referenced proposed additional property. Is that included or not?
Is that the parcel to the east of the development? If that's it, we are adding that into the. That is included, and that's the purple area where the acreage estate lots would be located.
So that is part of the estate lots?
Yes, sir.
That's included in the 667 acres?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Getting back to the ingress and egress to the parcel, it just seems to me like every one of those streets are local streets, with the exception of your 2 north entrants that are actually on New River, if you want to refer to New River as a collector. But I see them as local streets, and I don't see anywhere here where you're proposing to rise those streets above the level of a local street into a collector or an arterial even.
They are local streets, and I think that's one reason for trying to disperse the traffic evenly around the development. And again, I would refer to my traffic engineer if you'd like any more detailed explanations as far as the proposed improvements to those intersections on those streets.
Mr. Dumas, could I maybe respond to that?
Sure, please.
One of the things that has been asked of us, first of all, I'm L.J. Grazafi, by the way, but one of the things that's been asked of us from the beginning is that we not do a one-street subdivision. The parish, from the administration, the council, and so on, has asked us to come with a smart growth concept, which is what we have been working on and really have tried to do, and I think we've done it. But no matter where you build in Ascension Parish, you're going to, in some way, form end up on a local street. Excuse me. But one of the things that's a big advantage to us here is our relationship to the interstate and how close we are to the interstate. We're like a mile and a half. We like to think we're going to have 2 main entrances. We're like a mile and a half on the south end on 30 from I-10. On the north end, we're like a quarter of a mile from the interstate. And we do believe we'll get an on-off ramps there in a lot quicker time than most people would think. But if we, in fact, if during this period that we don't have that completed, we're about 3 miles from Dutchtown in the 73 exit. And while I'm at the microphone, I'd like to address the issue of so-called escape route from the plants. The Department of Public Works for some time now have had plans drawn up to build a road almost parallel to where our main boulevard runs, or is planned to be run, for an escape route that was going to be built with public funds, I should say, because I don't know exactly who. So I feel like we bring in a lot to the table as far as that's concerned. We've addressed every issue that that's ever been asked of us. We are a community. We follow the smart growth concept, and we're not going to impact the local roads as much as if some other subdivisions were built there or built in the area that would not have the smart growth concept as we have it. So hopefully, you know, we've done as good a job as can be done along those lines.
I've got a few more questions, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Can you, as I look as a planned unit development, the concept being that you should internalize the traffic as much as possible. So this is kind of a broad question, but one of the things that I'm trying to understand from the graphic, and I think the information's there, I just can't get it, is exactly how is the hierarchy of the roads and the distribution in this PUD, and how do you identify the different communities within the PUD? And I noticed that your commercial, your retail, and everything is at the southern end of the PUD rather than internal to the PUD.
Yeah, you go ahead and answer it.
It is mostly toward the southern end, but there is when you consider where the little yellow area surrounds the green area north of the that is going to be really a major professional small retail area, and on the very north end near Cornerview is planned for a pretty good development of retail commercial area. And as far as the internal traffic, the conceptual plan really doesn't address much but the major thoroughfares, and we do have some major thoroughfares north, south, east, west, and our collector roads will all tie into those. One thing we are going to try to do is discourage the use of automobiles within the development by providing a multitude of not just sidewalks but bike paths and alternate means of transportation, so that we can free up those streets as much as possible.
Okay.
Let me just say this, Mr. Dumas, if you don't mind. We're really trying to work with the chemical industry. We think that they're a very important part of this community, as I think we are. The part that is our professional park and is going to be our professional park, and our medical complex is, if you look at it on a zoning map, is presently zoned commercial park. So we were doing everything we could to utilize that property and not have residents in that particular area that a PUD would allow us to do. So we're trying to work with the community. And while I'm on that point, I just want to say that as of right now, and we have graphs and plats that we just don't have time to show, but retail sales, not the chemical industry, but retail sales is paying two times, almost 3 times as much taxes to the school board as the chemical plants are. And the reason for that is businesses follow rooftops, as you all know. And with the businesses following the rooftops, then it generates more taxes. As you see, Cabela's is right next door, even closer to Vulcan Chemical than we are. So all of those things can live together if we just try to work together. And we've done everything that we can to answer one other question, and not just to run on, but your school system about the elementary school. The Catholic Diocese addressed us on a high school specifically That didn't rule out an elementary school, but there is an elementary Catholic school already in Ascension. What this school is going to do, this is going to take a lot of burden off of the school system as it is right now. There's a tremendous amount of people in this parish that send their children to Donaldsonville to the Catholic school or to Catholic High in Baton Rouge that could now, at this point when this school is built, would be able to school their children right here at home. So, and we talked while I'm on the subject, and here again I have to say I think the plants are very important, and I want to support them. I just wish I could get some support back. But our figures show that, believe it or not, about 70% of the people that work at the plants don't even live in Ascension Parish. That's a big problem. That's a big problem as far as traffic on the streets. So anyway, I'm not up here to get into an argument. I'm just trying to address the issues as they were brought out. And if you have any other questions, I sure would like to try to answer them.
No,
and if I can't, well, then maybe I can answer them, get the answers for you later.
I just got a couple of comments that I'd like to make. I just think that in your presentation, I'd like to see the breakdown a little bit more clear. You know, you have a total of 400 and some odd acres of residential area, of which you're proposing 1,258 units.
Let me explain why that. To answer that question, we do have cluster areas and we do have nice entrances and nice areas in defined. For example, this is going to be an area over here where we'll have maybe a kind of a retirement center, and this will be an area over here that's going to be smaller homes, and this is going to be larger homes. But my understanding, and I'm going to turn it over to my engineer, is that the PUD concept doesn't ask us to present all of that at this time. That will be, we needed to bring that to the table during the planning phase, and if we drop the ball on that, I apologize, but that's why we were not more defined in that particular area.
I'm not asking you to be more defined. I'm just asking you that as you explain your categories, that you do your math, maybe a little bit different, so it kind of translates better and you provide more information. The density of your residential area is actually 2.8 plus units to the acre.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh, well, what we did was, see, the development is 667 acres, and we kind of broke it apart just to kind of give you a summary of what we're providing. But on the 667 acres with the 1,300 units, it's about 1.9 per acre for the entire acreage.
Yeah, but on top of that, you have 380,000 square feet of one thing and 120,000 square feet of other things. And what I'm saying is, that I'd love to see the breakdown of the acreage with the density associated with that acreage. I think it would be a more accurate representation of what's going on in the PUD.
We could definitely provide that to you. And what I thought would be a question was how many families there were going to be on the 667 acres, and that's what I was trying to address with that.
As part of the evaluation of the PUD, we got to look at the overall intensity, and it's just that's the kind of stuff that I'm having a hard time. The information's in there. It's just it's not in a format that I can.
And I apologize, but in 10 minutes it was real difficult for me to try to squeeze everything in there, or 15, sorry. But the actual density overall is 2.4 units per acre.
Right. That's why I was asking you about all of the square footages, because that's really the total picture of the intensity of the PUD, and those are some big numbers for office space and commercial area and what have you. That's all going to generate a tremendous amount of traffic that's going to go out 2-lane local streets on their way to a major thoroughfare.
Yes, sir, and like I said, we did have a professional traffic impact study prepared that did address all the residential and the retail and the office space. All of that was taken into consideration in the report that was submitted to CSRS and the parish.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? you've heard both sides. You've had your discussion and the opportunity to ask questions. Tonight we'll be voting twice. Once as a planning commission and once as a zoning commission. So I'll ask the question, what is the wish of the planning commission? Before I forget, I have turned the stopwatch on you. You're on the 2-minute gun.
You know, I'm going to say a general statement here. There's a lot of very nice concepts here and a lot of good ideas here. Is there a particular reason why we didn't do a workshop on this PUD?
We did do
We did workshop? I just wasn't present.
I don't remember.
I just think there's some information that I would love to see in what we would include in our recommendation to the parish council. That's just an observation on my part. My apologies, I was not there. I missed out.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask this question? If there are some things that are not clear to the committee, then, maybe it would be a good idea to defer, give us some specific questions as to what we could bring back, to the committee. Unless you think the committee is going to vote to approve this.
Right now, I'm not sure. We had 2 commissioners that asked questions. They had specific questions. I'm not going to make the assumption that the other commissioners understood everything or didn't understand everything. Sometimes, I have used, if you're silent, you're thought to agree. I'm not necessarily going to use that philosophy in this case right now. That is, as the applicant, it is your right to request a deferral. Now, this is a special meeting, however, so I think it would be. I would want to leave it up to the commission. As far as, do they want to make a motion to approve, deny, or deferral? I say you can make the request for the deferral. I'm going to let the commission decide if they want to go ahead and grant that request.
Would staff, if they defer, they could come back next month to the same meeting? Could they not?
Yes, sir. We have a certain time frame that we have to get it once the public hearing's closed to the council. So if that's done, we need to make sure that he's agreement to that, or we leave the public hearing, I guess, open if that's possible. Yeah.
Mr. Parrington?
If the developer requests they leave it open, then that would be a different story. That would be acceptable.
Mr. Fadi, I think what I'd like to see is a more detailed breakdown of all of these uses so that we can, look at the whole intensity in a clear picture. You follow me? And I'd almost like, That's really the most significant thing I have. I'd like to understand more about these local streets and how they meet traffic. I'm a little bewildered by that. I'm not a traffic engineer, but those are the two things I'd like to have more information on. That's me. I'm just speaking for me, myself.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, may I ask the other members if there's anything in specific that we could maybe answer for them if it were deferred? Any specific thing?
Excuse me, LJ, but I believe what you're asking for, Mr. Dumas, we actually have in type that I could bring to you right now if you want to look at it. It actually gives a breakdown of the square footage and number of residential per phase in detail, if you'd like a copy of that.
That's the list that's all by phases?
Yes, sir.
I just need to see the whole PUD.
For the whole.
Yeah, what the total impact of the whole PUD is.
That's just a summary of the non-residential, which is what they're requesting. What we did here was provide everything based on
I would not be adverse to meet with staff.
Sir?
I would not be adverse to meet with staff and help you understand what I'm asking for if I'm not being clear. I'd be more than happy with meet with you and staff,
Yes, sir.
to do that.
How the rest of you feel?
Well, let me just say that I echo Julio. I think some of the design that you have in here is quite nice. It's apparent you spent a lot of time. It's apparent that there's going to be a lot of improvement. The PUD thing is new to our parish, and so as a commissioner, it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot of responsibility. Just because it's a new thing, it's no knock on your development. It's just a new thing for us, and so there's a lot of dead space up here, airspace, because it's a new thing. The issue that I'm concerned with is more of a safety issue, and Jerry brought out some good points, and points that we live with in Ascension Parish, and we have over 60 chemical plants and refineries up and down the river in this parish that we live with daily. So those are in striking distance of this particular development. Hearing the residents, the local residents that have concerns with traffic, and how would you get people out? I'm thinking about your retail development or your commercial development or your high school. You've got 1,000 students, whatever that, and teachers. And what if you do have some sort of a release? And I happen to do emergency response every day of my life. So what if you happen to have a release? How are we going to get those kids, teachers, business owners, residents out? And do you guys feel, and your traffic engineer, I'm not a traffic engineer, do you feel comfortable with so-called evacuating those people to this New River Canal Road? Is that, and these other local roads, do you feel comfortable with doing that? And I want you to help me feel comfortable in doing that. I sit on this commission because the parish looks to us to make them feel comfortable. And this is just a recommendation we're going to send to the council. But I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell is my biggest hang-up is really in the category of infrastructure as it relates to safety and well-being. I don't want to put a development that's within 3 miles of a chlorine gas line that if it's ruptured, it's a lot of risk. There's a lot of human risk there.
Well,
so how can we get those people out? You help me understand that, and I think your concept is a good one if I take away that safety issue. Unfortunately, that's a big issue.
I think we can do that, and I think we can do it in the time that would be allowed for us to come back before the committee.
That's my 2 cents. Probably more than 2 cents, but
It's a good.
that's my
It's
thoughts.
a good comment. I don't have a problem with it. If I thought for 1 minute that our area where we're going to be building was not safe, I promise you I wouldn't be up here. We can build, just a comment, we can build 550 homes right now, and if it's not safe, we shouldn't be able to build any homes there.
Sure.
And if it's not safe, there should not be any other people living there.
Right.
So, but
Well, I've seen the River Ranch development. Let me say this. That development, what it's done for that environment over there is unbelievable. River Ranch is talked about across the country.
It is.
It's a wonderful development. It's got great economics behind it. It's a wonderful idea of having, you never have to get in your car. You can put your kids in daycare. You can walk to the school. You can be an active part of the community. You can go to the doctor and shop and all those things. It's a great concept. It's a beautiful idea. And it's a great economic swing for our parish. And just what we need. Take away and help me get past the safety concern.
Well,
I'll that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I do appreciate those comments, and I think we can do that. And if there's, and I do appreciate you bringing that out, because that helps us have a direction. And if anyone else has any questions, or particular questions, I'd be glad to try to get the answers if we can't answer them right now.
Let me leave you with this before I do, and I will shut up in a minute. But
take as much time as you need.
Well, the thought that I would have is, as a neighbor moving into the community, sit down with your neighbors, whether it be Mr. Carl and his family and the residents, or Mr. Jerry, or whoever it may be. Sit down with your neighbors and understand what their concerns are. That's always a good starting point. And then once you understand them, and you guys can work together with the chemical industry and say, okay, here's our safety plan, evacuation, what concern, whatever. Conceptually, that's a good foot in the door, and that would give me some ease just to know that you've met with those folks. So that would be mine.
I think it's a good suggestion.
Don't forget the pipeline running through the property also, when you talk safety.
It's the wish of the commission. And O'Neill, I want to make sure I understand. We still have to do this, even if it's a motion to defer. We still have to do it as Planning Commission and then vote as Zoning Commission. Correct?
Correct.
All right.
Do it at the request of the developer.
Right.
Mr. Grafati, with your blessing, I think at your request, I'm going to go ahead and move for a defer to the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and as I indicated to you, just coordinate with staff, and I'll be more than happy to come attend and I'll walk you through with what I'm trying to communicate to you.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have a motion. Now, we're voting as the Planning Commission here.
And,
have a
and are
motion.
you okay with that? Because it's got to really...
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate the help.
I have a motion to defer until next month by Julio Dumas.
I'll second that.
Second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion?
I'm going to abstain.
I have one abstention by Mike Bardwell. Motion passes. All right, now we have to vote as the Zoning Commission.
I'll make the same motion.
I have a motion to defer till next month by Julio Dumas.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alan Kraus.
I'm going to abstain once again.
Mike Bardwell abstaining. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Courtwright.
All right, we'll meet again as the Zoning Commission in about 10 minutes. I have entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Scott Courtwright to adjourn, seconded by Julio Dumas. Adjourned.
LJ, all right.